Run Rabbit Run was directed by Daina, Reid and written by Hannah Kent and released in July 2023 as a Netflix original. Sarah Snook plays a fertility doctor who notices strange behaviour in her young daughter after she claims to have memories of another life and must confront a ghost from her past, challenging her own values. So, Run Rabbit Run. I had high hopes for this one. It had been quite a big hitter at the Sundance Festival earlier in the year, and it was one of those ones that was generating quite a lot of buzz. So when I saw that it was coming to Netflix, it was like, brilliant. One, I don't have to pay for another subscription service because I always have Netflix, and didn't have to go rooting around for it. And this is actually a really difficult one to review because you can look at watching films in terms of entertainment in many different ways. I kind of have to look at a film as the whole package, which is frustrating when for like 80% of a movie you're quite into the storyline and you're quite enjoying what you're seeing, in as much as you can enjoy a story like this. I guess the problem for me with this one is because it falls apart so dramatically and so quickly by the end, it makes it actually quite hard to recommend. So I probably will go into some more spoilers with this video. So if you're not interested in spoilers or you actually want to go and see the movie, you can skip to the end and see my score. But just know it's probably not one I would say you have to rush out and see. And actually, if you look at the kind of critics and audience scores from Rotten Tomatoes, for example, it's not great. And I kind of get why. So let's just kind of rewind it back a little bit, and I'll talk about what I liked. And then we'll sort of talk about how it kind of, as I say, it sort of fell apart. So I would say Sarah Snook, she's probably like the golden goose of this movie. I actually didn't know who she was, and I had to look her up. I've not seen Succession yet, so she was a bit of an unknown to me, but actually I thought that really helped. I thought she was really good. Apparently Elizabeth Moss was supposed to be in this role, but I actually thought Sarah Snook was great. Really kind of, you felt her pain, you felt her frustration, and I sort of think she really, really carried the movie and kind of elevated it to more than it probably was. And as I said, I think for a lot of the runtime, I really was, I was invested in her character. And I think this is a problem with kind of a lot of horror films. It's probably always been my issue with horror is I think every horror film, or a large majority of horror films, have moments where you're like, this is great, this is good horror, there's some really good stuff in this. So many horror films just can't stick the landing. And there've been so many films that I've really enjoyed until the point you get to the end where the writer just doesn't quite know how to close the film. And often you'll be kind of led down this path where you feel like there's going to be this great mystery that really resolves itself in a really satisfying way. And so often that doesn't happen. And I would say that's one of the films here where, those last 20 minutes just don't really hang together. And it kind of leaves you feeling a bit like, well, what was the point? So, as I said, I thought Sarah Snook was great. And I was quite invested in the story. I was watching it kind of thinking like, this is getting quite repetitive. And if I heard, the mother character, who's also called Sarah, say Mia one more time or have another argument with her daughter, I could kind of see why others would find this really tedious. And it didn't make me want to switch it off. But it did get to the point of thinking, I've seen this fight play out so many times. And that sort of is the motivating factor behind the film and really what motivates it towards the end. There isn't a lot of new stuff coming in throughout the film to kind of maintain your interest. What I think is really interesting, which no one seems to be drawing this conclusion yet, and they will, or no doubt it's on there somewhere. This film is just the Babadook. So it's set in Australia. It's about a single mum with a very, I would say, actually quite irritating and quite hard to parent child. So instead of the boy from the Babadook, you've got a little girl in this film who's equally as testing, I would say. It was even written by someone called Hannah Kent. Babadook was written by Jennifer Kent. They're not related, but I just thought that was an interesting quirk. But they are so similar. There's all these themes about unresolved grief and guilt. And actually, I'm one of those people that I'm ashamed to say I don't really like the Babadook. It's not really my kind of thing. And again, for me, it just didn't have the kind of ending that I like that gave me enough. Because it left me kind of thinking, well, so what? And I don't really know why. I've just invested myself in the film. And that's kind of where this left me, was the ending, I guess, was trying to be clever. And the actual mystery that it ended on was kind of not that much of a surprise. I kind of guessed it about 40 minutes in, like, oh, I know what she did, and I know now why this kind of Alice character has come back into it. I thought the film was really well shot. It looked great. The music and score was awesome, really, really dark, and it had this really good tension and mood throughout. And I thought that worked really well. But yeah, ultimately, were there enough scares? Was there enough payoff? Probably not. It's just one of those films that I think really just fizzles out, and it probably could have just done with a bit of a rewrite and a bit of a rethink about, you know, why we're supposed to be invested in these characters. So no real big surprises. Not a bad viewing experience to the point of the ending, but I think you're going to be disappointed. I certainly was with that ending, and that seems to be what most of the online commentary seems to be: is why did I waste my time watching this when actually, you know, there just wasn't a fully fleshed ending thought out. So a real shame actually, because I thought there was lots to like, and you're obviously watching this now, so you know what I think. But actually, going in blind, you might actually enjoy getting to that ending part. I just think you're going to be disappointed with where it goes. So Sarah Snook, great. I really liked her. I think Daina Reid, actually, in terms of direction, it was great. And I think there's potential for her to release some really good stuff. I just thought it was a bit of a flat one. So in good conscience, and it pains me to say, this is a 5 for me. Pretty much middle of the pack. Not bad for an evening's viewing, but ultimately quite unsatisfying. So yeah, so that is Run Rabbit Run. I also saw a non-horror this week. I saw No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence. Again, it's not going to, that film is not going to change the world, but Jennifer Lawrence is just so charismatic that she carries it and makes it work. And actually, it was kind of fun. I was laughing to myself a couple of times out loud in the cinema, which doesn't happen very often. And I just thought, hey, worth mentioning because it's not a horror film, and I do see other films apart from that. So yeah, I'll probably wrap that up in an end of review. But otherwise, thank you for watching this review of Run Rabbit Run, and I'll see you on the next one.